I'm John Armfield with Wood Care USA, represent the WOCA products out of Denmark. And so I think one of the things you've got to really understand about oiled finishes is that they are very different than the urethane, because the finish is now inside the wood instead of having a film on top like you would with the urethane. And so the customer is going to get the board and he's going to say, well, there's no finish on here. Well, the finish is in the wood. You don't have that plastic film. I mean, one of the great things about the oil is you're not covering up these beautiful pieces of wood with plastic, and that's basically what you're doing with the urethane finish. So, finish being in the wood, the advantages of that, repairability. You know, with a film finish like a urethane, as soon as you get a deep enough scratch in there, there's going to be no repairability, because you've got to either do the whole room. You can't take a little area, repair that area, and rebuild that film and make it look right. But with the finish being inside the wood, you can take that scratch, and depending on how deep it is, we can go in there and just either put some oil right back in there and cover that scratch up. If it's really deep, we could go back in there and sand it a little bit, get the right colored oil back in. One of the questions you had was, how are we going to get the color back in if it's a really deep gouge? Well, the oil has pigments in it, different colored oils, and what Alex is going to do is have, with those 5 colors, he will have a different pigmented oil to be able to match that. So it would be a repair kit, if you will, that would be able to do that. And the homeowner would be able to do that themselves with basically a little jar of the pigmented oil and a rag, and take care of it. So, and just in small little areas. So, you know, it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb as soon as that dries, and we'll show you here in just a moment. It's not going to stick out. So if there's an area by the kitchen that gets scratched because of wear, they can repair that specific area. Furniture mover drags something across the floor, we could fix that without having to redo the whole house or board replacement or anything like that. The other, I think, advantage of the oil is the maintenance is a little bit different. You know, we've become so accustomed to all these urethane floors where you take your Bona spray kit or whoever else, whatever it is, Swiffer, spray it out and take your microfiber and mop it off. And you can do that because you've got that plastic film on top, and the dirt is on top of that plastic. With the oil, you don't have that protective coating, so what you're actually wearing is the floor itself. So dirt can get kind of ground down into the floor a little bit. So cleaning becomes a little bit more important on an oiled floor as opposed to a urethane. And so the way the Europeans really like to do this deal is to mop the floor. Take out the mop in the bucket, okay? Mix the soap product with water and actually mop the floor with that. And the reason is we really want to get the dirt up off of the floor and into the bucket instead of just kind of smearing it along. Because if we just smear it along, we've got a 1,000 or 2,000 square foot floor, and we take one little Swiffer head and we do that, we all know that by the end of the job, most of the dirt's still on the floor, and it's okay on that urethane, but on an oiled floor, it's still going to continue to get ground down in. So we really need to get it up off the floor and into the bucket. End result is the homeowner's got a whole lot cleaner floor long term, and it always looks good. One of the questions was, on an oiled floor, are you going to feel a sort of a sticky, greasy kind of residue on the floor? And the answer is no, you're not. The oil itself dries hard inside the wood itself. There is no oil on top of the wood at all, but it's designed with dryers in there to dry hard. And so once the application, once it's installed, there's not going to be any of that stickiness. And then when you clean your floor, there's not going to be that, because all of those products are designed to dry hard and not leave any of that stickiness, that dirt or anything else would be attracted to. The trend towards moving towards oiled floors in the U.S. market has really taken place over the last 2 years or so. This is not new technology in the world. The oiled floors have been around in Europe for over 40 years. The WOCA product has been used in the European market for over 40 years, and we have successful projects, both residential and commercial, that have been used over that 40-year period of time. So it's not a new product, it's not new technology. We know it works, and we know it works well. Part of what changed in the U.S. marketplace was the trend towards a lower sheen product, which the oils lend itself very well to, the trend towards wider planks and things like that. And the old world look of the oil kind of goes hand in hand with the products being used today. So I just want to reiterate that it is technology that works. We know it works well, and we continue to see a huge increase in this type of product being used in the U.S. Color considerations, look, style, all of those things just go hand in hand with the oil. The cleaning of the wood floors needs to be used the WOCA natural soap product. You may find other products out there locally at a grocery store, an oil soap type product. These are not to be used on the floor because they will leave a residue and tracking as you walk across it. The WOCA natural soap is designed to not leave any type of residue at all and to dry so that you don't have an oily or greasy feel or anything like that. Okay, so the cleaning process is basically, instead of using a urethane type cleaner, would be to use this soap product. And the WOCA soap is a product that we mix with water, 1:40 ratio, which is basically 1 cup of the soap with 5 quarts of water in a bucket. And then we're taking a mop, a sponge mop, and or you could use a string mop, but a sponge mop probably works best. Squeeze it out really well, and then mop your floors with it. And a lot of customers have the question of how often do I clean my floors? And it all depends on how you use your floors. Clean them when they're dirty. If it's once a week, that's fine. If it's once a month, that's fine. One of the things that the soap does is it has a coconut fat oil in it that provides a protective layer on the very top portion of the floor, and that helps to protect the floor from moisture and spills and drops and things like that. So each time that you clean your floor, you're basically picking up all of that dirt that's gotten trapped in that coconut fat oil, putting that in the bucket with the dirt in the bucket, and you're putting down a new layer that's going to help protect the floor. So this is the product that we want to use on a regular basis to clean the floor. It also comes in a already concentrated spray bottle, so that if you're in your kitchen loading your dishwasher and you have drips and preparing food, things like that, you can simply take this, spray it out on that drip, and wipe it off and be done. So what we don't want to do is to go to the local store and buy a cleaner that's for a urethane. It may work fine that first time, it may work fine the second time. What happens is you're taking the oil off of the floor with that stronger cleaner, and over time, once you've used it enough, all of the oil is going to be off the floor. Your floor is going to look dry, it's not going to have as much protection, and then the dirt's going to be down into the grain and much harder to clean. So both of these products here, the soap in either format, both of those help protect the floor so that dirt cannot get down into the grain of the wood. So it's very important to make sure that these products go out with any of those oiled floors, and don't let the consumer wait until he needs to clean it. He's having a big party and he goes to Bed Bath & Beyond and gets whatever cleaner they've got for hardwood floors. Works great that night, and they say, well, I don't need that, and they keep on using it. It generates a phone call to you going, hey, my floor looks dry and dirty now, what do I do? It's fixable, but we'd rather not generate that phone call from the very beginning. Those are the products that we use on a regular basis for cleaning, and then we have one other product called Oil Refresher that is also mixed with water and mopped on the floor the same way. This we mix a little bit differently. We mix this 1:20 with water, so that's 2 cups per 5 quarts of water. And what we want to do on that is we're going to use this product twice a year. It has a little bit of oil in it, about 2% oil, and it actually helps to protect that floor again. So every 6 months, instead of using the soap to clean your floor, you would use this oil refresher instead, and it just provides a little bit of extra protection. It's a cleaner as well as an oil that's going to help protect the floor. So all of 3 of these products, or these 2, the soap and the oil refresher, are the products that we want to use on a regular basis to maintain the floor. Okay, so one of the questions that we get is, in addition to the soap and the oil refresher, how long will my oiled floor last? And that's a question that is subjective to kind of how the floor is being used, whether you've got a lot of children and pets and things like that. But typically we say somewhere between 2 and 5 years, the floor is going to need to get renourished with some actual oil itself. And that process is simply taking an intensive cleaner product that WOCA makes, mopping that on the floor, and then buffing another coat of oil into the floor itself. The oil itself is a VOC-free product, very little if any smell to it, very fast drying, 4 to 6 hours. So the floor, an oiled floor would never ever need to be resanded. You simply come back in and buff another coat of oil into the floor. That renourishes the oil, keeps it from keeps the dirt from being able to penetrate into the wood itself, and really gives you a a long-lasting product. So we've got some installation. The airport over in Denmark, Copenhagen, is about a 40-year-old product that has never been resanded. It's only been re-oiled on a regular maintenance process. So it's hard to believe that a project could go 40 years with no sanding. If you go through that airport now in Copenhagen, the floors look great, and they're maintained with the WOCA oil. Same thing with the train station over in the Eurostar train station in London. 30,000 people go through that station a day. It's maintained with the WOCA oil. One of the other questions that came up a moment ago was for commercial use, and one of the things that we would do with the commercial use is we would speed up a lot of these processes. So instead of maybe cleaning the floor with the soap once a week or once a month, it may be a daily deal with the commercial cleaning, and then we may need to come back on a commercial process and actually do it on a monthly basis instead. If it's really high intensive, we can prescribe that specific cleaning schedule to any high intensity project like maybe an airport or a train station. The oil that we would go back with on a 2 to 5 year basis on a residential project would be a product called maintenance oil. It is a non-pigmented oil. WOCA does make some pigmented oils, and if you had a particular project where the gouge or scratch had gotten deep enough where all of the color had come out of the floor, there will be repair kits that will have pigments in the oil itself to be able to repair that floor. So it depends on if it's just putting another coat on the floor and the color still looks nice, then just the regular oil without any pigments would be just fine. All of the oil is a natural product. As I think I said before, it's a VOC-free product, natural. It's sunflower oil is the majority of the product, but it is VOC-free, would meet a lot of the items for LEED certification. You can get 2 points with the WOCA oil, one for being a VOC-free product and one for being a rapidly renewable product under 10 years because it is a plant product. But yeah, that's good. Okay, so the regular cleaning of the floor is going to take place with the WOCA soap product. This is the product that's mixed 1 to 40 with water, 1 cup of the soap to 5 quarts of water mixed in a bucket, and typically you would have, for the floor, you would have a bucket with your mop, and then you would mop the floor. Today, on this video, I'm going to show, this is already a pre-mixed soap product, so I'm going to show how we would do it with it. Basically, the floor's been used for a week or a month or whatever time period, and you're ready to clean it. So I'm going to spray out my cleaner on there. If it's really, really, really dirty, you may put an extra spot right there, let it sit for just a minute to kind of let that dirt get a little softer so it'll come up better. And then you're going to take your mop, or in this case I'm just going to use a rag, and we're basically going to mop that floor with the soap product. And when you mop the floor with the soap, basically you want it to dry in about 15 minutes from the time that you mop it, If it's taken 30 minutes or an hour to dry after you mop it with the soap, you're leaving way too much water on it. You need to squeeze your mop out a little bit more. If the dirt's not coming up, then simply go over that area again with the mop. But that will take up most of the dirt that's on the floor, and then you'll have a perfectly clean floor to live on. This particular sample had been well traveled and has some bumps and bruises on it. This particular scratch running across this board here, scratch from whatever it may be, I think we can take it out by simply taking a little bit. This is an abrasive pad, and we're simply going to sand a little bit, very, very lightly. We don't want to take the color out. We just want to simply make that that scratch, that superficial, kind of come right out. We'll do that. And then, of course, it's going to look a little dry, so we need to put a little bit of oil right back into it. So this is our repair oil, and we'll simply rub it on there on the floor where we lightly sanded. Let it sit for just a moment there, and then we're going to wipe it right back off. And basically now the scratch that was, it's hard to see, I can't really see it at all, that was right here, it has basically disappeared, and we've taken care of the customer's floor with no scratch at all. The question was about heel scuffs and what do we do to fix that. So we were going to put a little scuff on the floor. All right, and so we've got two different scuffs here. We've got one right here and one right here. And we're going to try first the least aggressive approach, and that's going to be to take my soap again, and we're going to spray a little soap on here. I've got a piece of a white pad. You could use the same thing as a what you would clean like a Teflon pan at in your kitchen. You know, something soft enough that's not abrasive, and we're going to try to just scrub out that little heel scuff on here. And then we're going to come back and wipe that off, and let's see if we got the heel scuff off. I think we did. If it required a little bit more, we would just go back again, spray a little bit more soap on there, rub a little bit harder to get that heel scuff off, and we're done. If it was something that actually damaged the wood itself, then we may need to go in there with the abrasive pad and to abrade that just a little bit, and then go back with the oil. But the best case scenario is to always go with the least aggressive first and try to fix it with that. That's the easiest method, to just try to fix it with the soap and then progress on through until you get it repaired. The question was, does an oiled floor actually scuff more than a urethane floor? No, it doesn't. I did want to show what happens with the heel scuff. We've got plenty of commercial projects throughout the world. The heavy usage, like the airport in Copenhagen and the train station, the Eurostar train station, where there's thousands and thousands of people going through there daily with dirty shoes, and we don't have that issue at all in those locations. Okay, typically when the floor needs to be re-oiled, it's a very simple process for us. Back in the days where the urethane floors were used, there was a sander would need to come in and sand that floor and create a lot of dust and a lot of smell with the urethane. With the oiled product, there should never be any sanding done to this floor at all. It should never have to be resanded. We can simply go in there with the intensive cleaner that WOCA makes, mop the floor with that intensive cleaner, make sure it's really clean, and then we're going to go back in with a buffer and some maintenance oil, and we're going to buff in the maintenance oil into the floor. Depending on the size of the project, the cleaning portion of that is simply mopping the floor, letting it dry for an hour, and then the buffing, you know, a typical one-man crew could probably do a couple of thousand square feet in less than a day. So he could do a typical house and re-oil a typical house in less than a day and get that done. The maintenance oil is VOC free. virtually smell-free as well. No dust created in that process at all, so there's no reason to tape up doorways and things like that. So very not intrusive at all to the homeowner, where the homeowner can come back in very quickly after a couple of hours after the floor, the maintenance oil is dried, and live on that floor right away.